summer internships. We're all familiar with the old summer job, but the idea of the internship no longer being something for college graduates or college students, but now high school students, is something seemingly new and very stressful for families.
At some schools, you actually have to do an internship every summer in order to graduate. So it's built into the curriculum that a student has to complete a certain amount of hours in order to get their high school diploma.
Now, would those be public schools, charter schools, or private schools?
My experience is that they're usually built into the charter schools, which are public schools. However, I imagine that there are some other kinds of districts that are also including this into a graduation requirement as well. Oftentimes at the school, there is somebody who will help the student identify some internship opportunities, whether that's a school counselor, an adjustment counselor, or some other person. If it's part of the graduation requirement, oftentimes there is somebody in the building who can help you do that. For example, if you're really interested in being in the medical field, in a nursing program, those kinds of things, hospitals tend to be a really good place for folks to do internships. So I think if you have an idea of the kind of things you may want to study or major in, whether again it's in the medical field or it's in the social science field, probably the easiest and the best way is one, to talk to folks that you know, so through your network, through your parents' network, and your employer. Even if you are a student, sometimes folks that you're working with have people who can connect you. And then I think the other way is to just kind of do some due diligence and research online, and check out various sectors to see if they have opportunities for internships.
What is the difference between an internship and just a regular summer job?
So I think probably the easiest distinction is that sometimes an internship is completely unpaid. That's not always the case. You can definitely find internships where you are paid a stipend or even paid by the hour. The biggest difference is that the internship is probably more hands-on than it would be if you were working, and that you may be able to kind of float from either department to department or work with different people in the setting that you're in to get a different feel and a different experience for the kind of work that's being done across the company.
So what I'm getting from what you're saying is you would say that an internship is more overtly educational, more purposefully educational than just a job.
Yes, I believe so.
Right. Even though, especially when you're starting a job, especially if there's training, you are technically learning. But there's the difference between learning how to operate an ice cream dispenser and going to get an internship in a hospital or for a pharmaceutical company and actually learning something.
Correct.
How does one go about getting that internship, getting hired or selected for that internship?
Again, the process is not universal across the board. I think that there are a few different ways. So one is that there's probably an application process that you have to go through, similar to like if you were applying to a job, or even sometimes similar to if you were applying for college, just a little bit more condensed. So there would be probably an application process. A certain number of students or a certain number of applicants will come in and just do like a one-day workshop.
What are some of the benefits for a student, even if it's unpaid, to take the internship track as opposed to a regular summer job, especially if it's not a requirement for graduation?
Bottom line is the experience and the exposure that a student will get. So for example, I worked with a student once who wanted to be a veterinarian. She didn't really have access to folks who were vets in her network, but she had identified an organization in her area that was very well known, and this is where she wanted to do her internship. And she knew this very early on. So the summer between 9th and 10th, she attempted to get an internship and she was denied for whatever reason. And it happened again the following year, but she was super persistent. This is what she wanted. So finally, the summer between her junior year and her senior year, she was able to get in the door. And she started off just kind of cleaning the kennels where the dogs and the cats were. But what she did was that she took advantage of being in that space. She became extremely friendly with the veterinarian, and she asked the veterinarian if she would be able to sit in on a surgery. Not only was she able to sit in on the surgery and kind of see what happens, but she was able to do this multiple times. And so had she been working at, the ice cream shop, or, at anything that wasn't necessarily veterinarian related, she wouldn't have had that experience. And I strongly believe that experience for her, in her particular situation, it made her college application a lot stronger, because she was able to say, this is what I want to do as a career. These are the things that I've done up until this point to get me on that trajectory. So I think the exposure that you have to different opportunities and the depth of the things that you can learn is vastly different.
Would every student preparing for every field benefit from an internship, or is there just some areas that it just doesn't make sense?
No, I think every student could probably benefit from doing an internship. I think students can pick up at these internships that are super invaluable to not only their chosen career, chosen major, but even just as knowledge as you grow into an adult.
How would a student, someone at home listening, friend of a student who is not from a well-off community, who is not demographically in a community of means, access this sort of information?
Again, I think you have to find where the resources are. So if there are resources at your school, you seek those out, whether it's a teacher, or principal, whoever. But if there's a resource at school, figure out who that person or those people are and seek out those resources. I think, again, even if you're in a community where that you're under-resourced, I still think that there are opportunities that are available to you, as long as you're taking the initiative to have conversations with folks who are connected in ways that are valuable to what you're trying to do. One of the downsides is sometimes students go into an internship thinking, this is exactly what I want to do this summer, this is exactly what I want to do when I graduate high school and go on to college. And they get in this internship space, and it really becomes something that they're not happy with. I think that's probably the biggest challenge. It could be anything between, just like the people that the students are working with, the actual jobs that they're doing. But it could, at a higher level, just be something that I really thought I was really interested in, working at a radio station. And now that I'm here, it's absolutely not anything that I imagined it to be, and I don't see myself doing this in the future. So I think that's probably the biggest concern with students being placed or finding a placement in an internship or in a summer situation where it's not very well aligned. I will say, though, that sometimes the alignment could be there, but it could be an issue of the student not being mature enough to understand the value of what they're being exposed to because of a certain maturity level that they may have.
Now, I'm going to touch on a sensitive subject right now. Given the state of our culture right now, with the backlash against abusive power dynamics in workplaces and other experiences that people have had and are now finally speaking out or able to speak out and be heard and be believed for a change, there's always the possibility that a student will have an uncomfortable, negative, or unprofessional experience. How would a student deal with that situation?
Yeah, I think that's a powerful question, because I think that it really depends on the student and their personality. I think that there are some students who would be in a who, if they were in a situation like that, would feel quite comfortable going to their supervisor and having a conversation about what has transpired that has made them feel uncomfortable. And then putting the trust in that supervisor to handle the situation in a way that makes good sense. But on the flip side of that, I do think that there are some students who, for fear of missing out on an opportunity, would not say anything to anybody, whether it was a supervisor or a parent or a teacher or a mentor. And I think that's something that we as adults really do need to support our young people on, and sometimes tough choices have to be made. So I think that I don't know if it's the responsibility of the adults in the child's life, in the student's life, in the teenager's life to have an upfront conversation before entering the internship space. But I do think that there's an opportunity, a learning opportunity that can happen even before a student steps into this space. And I would like to think that there are good people in the space that the student is entering into, that if something like this were to happen, that the student would feel comfortable enough saying, hey, supervisor, this happened yesterday with so-and-so. What can I do? How can you help me? It is up to the adults in that student's life, again, whether it's a parent, a teacher, a mentor, to really be able to empower a student to come forth should they be in a situation where there's something that made them feel super uncomfortable.
Given how new the internship for high school students process is there any downside to a student who doesn't have an internship? Will that currently have a major impact on their college application process?
The fast answer is no. I think that if a student has chosen not to do an internship and it's not a situation where it's a graduation requirement, as long as that student is spending their summer time doing something of quality, whether that's working full time, whether it's taking care of your siblings full time, playing a certain sport throughout the summer, I think as long as your time is well spent and it builds upon your narrative of who you are and what you want to be, I think that it's okay.
So in juxtaposition to the internship over the summer, you just mentioned the summer job. Given the types of jobs that most high school students stereotypically end up taking, what we've talked about, the ice cream shop, things like that, how important is having a summer job?
It's important if you want to make some money, obviously. And I think a lot of students nowadays, they want to make some money. So, again, going off, I worked with a student who had never done a summer internship, and he had a goal. He wanted to buy a car. And so every summer from the time he was old enough, he held down a job throughout the summer. And that was his personal goal. That's what he wanted, and it worked for him. So I think the value of having a summer job is really something that it's almost like the student puts the value on that. Or even sometimes a family circumstance can put the value on having a job, as for a student to have a job over the summer. So it's not invaluable. I don't want folks to get the wrong impression that you should do an internship over having a summer job at all. I think that it's one of those things, it's different strokes for different folks, right? So for some students, having an internship over the summer is super valuable and that's what they want to do, where for other students, for whatever reasons, having a summer job is something that they value and something that's important. And again, you can't argue with the fact that getting paid to do work is something that students are attracted to.
It doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
It doesn't hurt at all. So one thing that I observed when I was doing a summer internship search process with a student of mine was when you search for summer internships, a lot of what we saw were not internships at all. They were summer education opportunities. Spend your summer at this university, take classes, live on campus. But we found these through searching for summer internships. Are those types of opportunities, and they're an opportunity where you, the student, or your parents have to pay money to this institution to take these classes, right, and have room and board on this campus. Would you say that is as good, better, or worse than a summer job or summer internship opportunity?
I would say it's just as valuable. I think that these summer opportunities on college campuses provide, particularly for students who are first generation college students, I think it provides a very good overview of the kinds of expectations that they would have to meet if they chose to go on to the collegiate level. I also think that even though some of these opportunities you have to pay to be part of these programs, I think the value of being on a college campus for 3, 4, 5 weeks over the summer is literally something that can change a student's life, can change a student trajectory in a very positive way. I've worked with students who had no desire to go to college, and for some way, the reason that their life lined up, they were able to do a summer program, a summer internship at a college campus. And these programs really do create a sense of family among the cohort of students that are there. It also provides, I think, almost like a sense of empowerment, like you are here, you can do this. Because oftentimes getting into those programs, it's quite difficult. It's almost like a separate college application process where you need letters of recommendation and those kinds of things. So the process is not easy. So if a student has gone through the process and gets in, chances are that they are committed to going and seeing the program through. So I think it's equally as valuable as doing an internship or working. I think, again, the value that you have in doing a program like this on a college campus, the exposure that you have with faculty and maybe doing some research that you otherwise wouldn't be exposed to, I think that's super invaluable.
And just to make 2 points about what you just said, because I completely agree with you. I myself did those types of summer programs all throughout high school, in the summers, and similar programs on weekends during the school year at local college campuses, and found them amazing, invaluable. And interestingly enough, the second point is that my wife did similar programs, but because she grew up in a community that was less well off than my own, she was able to get those programs through something called Upward Bound. And there are other programs like TRIO that will help students pay for that are funded and allow students who do not come from a background of wealth to afford those programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the colleges themselves know that they want a diverse group of students, not only racially, ethnically diverse, but also socioeconomically diverse. And so through the application process of the program, oftentimes some of these colleges will provide sufficient financial aid or enough financial aid for a family who is, in an unresourced area to be able to make this a thing.
So for those types of programs, one's own personal lack of means should not be a barrier to at least the attempt or at least the research.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. And I encourage students and families to do obviously it takes time to do the research. And if you have somebody at the school or again a mentor, a coach, or someone who can help support you in that, it makes the process a lot easier. But I would discourage a student from not pursuing something because of cost, because oftentimes at these college campuses there's a solution to that.
And worst case scenario, if you don't have a teacher or advocate or college counselor at your school with whom you feel comfortable, there are folks out there who are desperate to help you, and they're called librarians.
Absolutely.
Every library I've ever been to, the librarians are desperate to do research. When you meet a kid who loves research, when they grow up, they're probably a librarian.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been really helpful to me, and I hope to all the viewers and listeners at home. Wanda, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason. It was great to be here today.
Well, once again, this was Dr. Wanda Montañez, and I am your host, Jason Breitkoff. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you've had a chance to subscribe, whether through iTunes, SoundCloud, or other resources. Please feel free to share this podcast, tell your friends, classmates, coworkers, etc. And if you would like to, please leave a comment. Thank you so much, and let's all keep learning.